the question of spiritual wealth is what we are talking about. And we may try to measure it with the experiences we've had, or the amount of love we are feeling, or the amount of depth in our spirituality, and the amount of insight and knowledge that may be arising within us. But really, that is not spiritual wealth according to me. Spiritual wealth is how much of our life have we given to God. Have we given this moment to God? So if we take our eyes away from the outcomes into the just what is in our sphere of control, so to speak, and say this moment I can just, to the best of my ability, surrender to God, try to love God, pray to Him in whatever way our teachers have told us, and then the rest is His gift to us. That is, so we just, then it makes it very simple. Then you're not getting so caught up in what am I feeling right now, what is my experience. But yesterday I was feeling so good, or that time I had this spiritual awakening and this happened. So it goes away from all of that into this moment, what can I offer? Can I offer my heart to God? Can I offer myself fully to God? That is it. And if we learn to live like that more and more, that whatever is coming in front of us can keep coming, whatever experiences are coming so-called within ourselves can keep coming, but my heart belongs to God. That every moment there is a coin of spiritual wealth, and every moment that is the brick of the heart temple that we're building. Not the brick of the experiences that God Himself in His grace is giving us, but every moment of time is the brick in our heart temple. So then our vision becomes very clear. We're not distracted by the wrong things, not by the wrong things that we can focus on even in spirituality. Not the perks of spirituality, but our end of the bargain, which is to offer ourselves up to God. When we keep our eyes on our end of the bargain, then we know that the one that we are falling in love with is the most merciful, is the most kind. So we never have to worry about his end of the bargain. Are we fulfilling our end of the bargain is the only question. And not to fall for excuses which the mind offers us and says, oh no, but today I can't because today this, or today I can't because today this. So I'm speaking from my own experience that the mind will offer these things. The mind will offer these things to us constantly. So don't try our best not to fall for these. You have noticed for yourself that every day the mind will say, Kal se full on. Tomorrow onwards. But today I have this. So spiritual maturity is to recognize these tricks and to just, sometimes it can feel like waging a battle. But you don't fall for the tricks as much as possible, then because soon this play is going to be over. No matter how young we are or how old we are, it's very soon. Time is very mythical almost.
The question yesterday when we went to the hospital.
Yes.
I was like, I always feel, I've told you before, when I am in such situations, then I realized that this flesh and all is going to perish, and I'm actually I'm not realizing that I'm living in this way, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Like, I am trying, and no effort is feeling enough. I don't know how to make a good effort towards God.
But we know in our heart that is this moment for me or for God. That's about it. Like, what is the best effort you can do? Because no method is good enough. No meditation is good enough. No practice is good enough. Nothing can And thank God it's not good enough, otherwise we would become so proud. If there was a method which could just guarantee God, then it would not be based on His grace, it would be based on our effort. So, thankfully, nothing can really capture Him. Except that sometimes, like one day I just had this feeling that finally, after 27 years of spirituality, I found a way to get a hold on Krishna. I just felt like, okay, now my love is here in my heart, naked, empty, open, and you can't resist it. You may fight all you like, but you're in my hand. It can come with a sense, not with a sense of pride, but in a sense of playfulness, in a sense of love, like that. But truly speaking, nothing can really hold God. So all these practices are just like children trying to catch the sun by making, sand drawings or something like that.
It really feels like that. It's so like that.
What you're trying to capture is so beyond anything that we can fathom.
Like we feel like, oh, I'm doing such a big mantra, and I'm saying the Bij mantra and clean and all. It's feeling like in front of God, what is it? And then you also feel like you're so at the mercy of Him. You don't know. Like you have to be ready to wait forever also. Like you can't push away.
The only way to, in a way, force Him is unconditional love. But then the forcing part has to be let go of before it becomes unconditional anyway. But I truly feel in my heart that love is irresistible to God.
Father, in my condition, I feel like even to take God as that real the whole day is impossible in my condition now, I feel. I'm living such a swingy way. I'm always
That is why
suddenly so
anyone who
good.
can ever says that God is no longer a question of faith for me is probably mistaken or lying. Because God will always be a question of faith.
But Father,
More
when
largely
it
a
slips
question
out,
of
we
faith.
don't know.
Because we are so designed to take Maya as reality. And to take
Yes,
the
I agree.
invisible, the imperceptible as reality is always going to be a question of faith. Faith in what our heart is showing us, not in a blind belief. Faith is often misunderstood as blind belief. But faith in what we know in our heart as true knowledge is faith. So it's always going to be there, no matter how accomplished you are in
I
spirituality.
never heard it like this, but like I'm hearing it right now.
So this is important.
It's not really about like how I was seeing it, I feel.
It's more about trusting the heart more and more.
Yeah.
And the mystery remains. You see, it's never that we trust our heart so much that God is no longer a mystery to us.
Yeah.
That's why He's always a question of faith.
Everyone said can't process this.
So I'm saying that you trust your heart more and more. It's not like in the heart we found the equation, E is equal to mc square, and now we've solved it. It's not. It's always deepening. It's always a deepening question of faith. But in sort of a modern spirituality, we set up on a treadmill where you do this often enough and then you get a hold. This is not true actually.
So you can say if you get
Like if you look at some modern teachers,
yeah.
they have said, oh, now if you do like this, then enlightenment, this is enlightenment, and things like that. But enlightenment is also more like a spectrum rather than a final point. It's more like a spectrum of colors and shapes, and it's full of learning, insight, deepening, challenges, many times of dryness, many attacks from the world and the mind, Maya attacks. But it's been offered as sort of a finality, which is not true. And then what happens is that's where the frustration comes from for many of us. It's like, why isn't it happening for me? It should have happened by now. So that it is not really an it. And it is like a rainbow. You can't really grasp it.
Thank you.
Say more about this, no? That it's a matter of faith.
So when think of all the time you get frustrated in spirituality.
Yeah.
You get frustrated because you think you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is because you've been led to this idea that it is something that can be gotten.
Graspable.
It's not really about that. It's about just continuously offering yourself up, loving God,
And in that,
inquiring into your true nature. All the paths are valid, but the spiritual marketing that all of us have done inadvertently is what gets us in trouble.
so Father,
Like Osho, for example, would speak a lot about enlightenment as a final sort of destination, and then that can get ingrained in the minds of people, and then it can either be this false sense of accomplishment, like some will roam around for a few weeks like that, ho gaya, life gives them a slap and then all gone like that. You see, and if your ego is really strong, it takes a really strong slap to get you back to earth also. So that is a lot of trouble. And others who are maybe more sincere and humble will keep saying, but why isn't it happening? Why isn't it happening for us? Because enlightenment has been made into a it of some sort, like a grasped thing. But it's not really like that.
what is it, Father, then?
Like it is more like, how would you call someone wise? You would not call someone wise because they know one thing. You look at the overall something about them and say, this one is very wise. You see, what makes them so wise? You're not able to pinpoint. Isn't it? No, because he knows this, he's very wise. Yeah? You may give them a PhD. Knowledge is different from wisdom. So knowledge you may be able to say, oh, he cleared this exam, so he is very knowledgeable. But there is no wisdom exam. You just get a sense. You get a sense, and usually those people are not calling themselves wise. They are seeing that there's so much for them to deepen, so much for them to grow. So enlightenment is more like that. The sages, I feel also it's a modern phenomenon where we made these categories of enlightened, unenlightened. In the past, it was more like a spectrum. That if you look at there was the Bharadwaj-ji, there was the Yajnavalkya-ji. Now nobody's saying he was enlightened, he was unenlightened. They were different, and everybody had more and more depth about them. But that categorization was not so cruel. So cut and dry. It's become, I feel like with a little bit of the modernization and a little bit of the westernization, it has become more like these labels have become very important.
Father, can I say one more thing? The more I'm like trying, the more I feel like I don't have that focus. I feel I really lack. I don't know how to say it. Like,
It has to become more of a moment to moment game. So just this moment.
even this becomes a distraction. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it can become then the
Yeah.
report card, and you've spoken about the checker there, so
I feel like now hearing you, I feel like even if it's sounding very sincere, it's
yeah,
not.
you can get into the checker guy now. And I don't feel like
It's buying time. No?
yeah, we can't really place ourselves in that way that I'm trying hard or not so hard, somewhat. All these things are very difficult to quantify. Like suppose whole day I forgot about God,
Yeah.
but I remember that I forgot about God now. So now at the end of this moment, was the day wasted or was it spent well? You can't really say. That's what I'm saying. It's impossible to really quantify what we really have. Like, we don't really know anything about time anyway. What we really have is just this moment, this moment, this moment. Either it can be like inspiration or it can be excuse. And we only know in our heart what it really is. Everything I've ever said in Satsang can either be inspirational or it can be used by the checker guy, for spiritual guy, and all of those things. So we can never really, only when it's heartfelt and the spectrum is much broader than true and false. Much broader than the very blunt instrument. So this is right, this is wrong, this is how it is, this is not how it is. It's very primitive to look at things as just this is how it is, this is not how it is, the two corners of the room. Then you broaden that by saying it could be both this way and that way. Then you could say it could be neither this way nor that way. But the fifth is it leaves our mind without moves, our intellect without moves, and then we truly become heartfelt. It doesn't mean that we get into some sort of like zombie mode. It's just that we're not holding things tight. Sometimes what happens is when you hear about things like the fifth, you want to get into it. Which is alright if it happens naturally. If it's forced, then it's not really authentic. It's more like we're loosening our grip on our conceptual life. Losing, am I like this, or am I lazy, or am I enthusiastic in my spirituality? I don't know. When we had Satsang like just soften that position.
No position.
Soften it up. Soften it up a little bit. I'm a bit lazy, I'm a bit enthusiastic. Maybe I'm a lesson. So you can't really. So it loosens up instead of it becoming. And also like the empty position. Then you don't really get into. The big trap is to get into an empty sort of position. This is not a true emptiness. So true emptiness is just a loosening. Very difficult to put these things in words.
But we get a sense, because when you do it actually, then you see that. And then you can.
That's so helpful. Because it's just so helpful. I don't realize that I've actually taken on a very strong position. And then now when you just say it like that.
And that's one thing that, like in Ecclesiastes, one of my favorite songs also, in everything, turn. So there's a time for this, there's a time for this, there's a time to be soft on ourselves, there's a time to be hard on ourselves, there's a time. But that can only come from here. So just lighten, and allow that inner compass to lead us.
Father, sometimes when we hear, like you were also mentioning, when we listen to Satsang, so we can either feel bad about ourselves or judge ourselves, or the other way it could be that we take inspiration. So can it not be the inspiration sometimes can also be from the mind part? Because
that's what I'm saying, that even in this
also,
sometimes there's a time to be hard on yourself, sometimes a time to just be inspired. So it's very difficult to really put these things in boxes and so and even that sometimes you need to put things in boxes.
Father, I'm just asking you that you repeat the first point that you were saying. Yesterday when we were taking care about this, and we was talking about how at the hour of death, there is it sounds very silly, but there's Yamdut that comes, and a lot of people talk about experiences of how they see somebody at the hour of death, and it almost sent like a chill down my spine. Like I was like I was starting to feel that there's no guarantee, no matter what I do, for me to see Krishna at the end of it. Like there's no way that, because there's no security here in any way, neither is there
any security that
That's why it has to always boil down to, right now, it has to always boil down to that. If we keep spending a lot of time concerned about the outcomes, then actually in the concern for the outcomes you miss a chance to love God in this moment, or to pray, or to inquire, or to whatever feels right in our heart in that moment. So somewhere if we need like an underlying principle that keeps us alive to the moment, then we can use the underlying principle that He is the most merciful. And so many sages have told us that all we need to take is one step towards Him, and He takes 100 towards Him. So we need some sort of reinforcement to keep our spirit alive to it. Sometimes we can get very disheartened, and that disheartedness also prevents us from just being free in our love for God. So in this Madhurya Bhav, that's what I'm learning, because my whole spiritual life has been so much about Bhakta, Dasa. So now but would this be my stance with my beloved? Or would this be my stance with a father type figure or a master type figure? And I'm trying to, so that's bringing some ease. And this is also God's grace that when this ailment came, He's also provided a path of some ease, that it's not so stressed out. That you love, and it's a two-sided love. You just ask for forgiveness and say, sorry I wasn't able to call you, but I'm calling you now, forgive me, this kind of stuff. So it's a lot more free in that way. But you have to see in your heart what your sense is in this particular phase in your lives. You have to see.
You would say there was a lot of guilt in your...
Not really guilt, but more like a sense of doing the right thing. I don't feel like I beat myself up too much in the past. It's always like, what is the dharma in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's more. It's very difficult. This new phase is very difficult to put in words. But you compare it to like the most beautiful sort of human relationship of love, and from there it can. That's why this Radha Vallabh tradition I love so much, because all these rules also freshly, I think, because the crowds and all will increase more. But just offer yourself up to God, offer yourself up to Krishna or Radha. You don't have to worry so much whether what you're wearing, what you're eating, what you're doing, all this. So we have to be very careful that this can be, again, like we said in the beginning, it can become excuses or it can become inspiration. So I'm going to obviously become worse and worse with words because I don't know how to share anything now.
How do we get a sense of what the bhav is? I mean, like how you were sharing, to get a sense of it. But just by being there.
Carry this with you. Carry the question with you. God is merciful enough to show us over time with patience.
Can you repeat?
Carry it with you. Carry the intention to know what is the right path for me in this moment. And then you'll see that over a few days, weeks, it reveals itself. I've seen it's always, there's never a question that I've carried in my heart which is not answered. I mean, it may take some time, but He always shows me the way. Always. Can we really say that in every single human situation, 7 billion people, how many seconds every day, that one human may not be helped by having a belief which is just in their head.
So say it again.
Just like a godly belief, at least you
Yeah.
can start to, like a spiritual belief. That they believe that Ram is taking care of them. Maybe they help them in that moment. They don't really know it in the heart. It is the belief they have. Okay.
That's true.
This is a big switch from where I started. I'm saying that I'm really starting to soften up all of these
Yeah.
things. That's something
Yeah.
that I don't know what to say anymore.
Yeah.
Because I say just have faith
Yeah.
and don't believe them.
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody may be helped by having a belief. Who's to really say?
Yeah.
The best we can do in a way is to look at the predominant sense and make that like a box and offer that. Otherwise, nothing really can be spoken. So what I felt predominantly at every point of time is what has been spoken. But now in this break time, post-retirement time, loosen up on all of these things. Yeah. Well, some things do happen where you feel like God is, like if a child comes from Delhi and she feels like one interaction in Satsang, whatever it was, turned her towards God in some way, then who am I to claim retirement if God is making these things happen? So, it's not making strong claims about that. But something here is enjoying retirement, I have to say.
Sabbatical.
Sabbatical. Let's call it.
And now I think you should rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Neha.